70% of our Earth is not being monitored at all.
There's a illegal fishing problem, which is a $50 billion problem to be solved today. Then there is oil spill problem. Port congestion itself is a $7 billion problem to be solved today. Right? We're building a constellation of all-weather imaging satellites for persistent ocean surveillance.
So we are having synthetic aperture radar satellites to monitor oceans at all times in order to detect vessels which have turned off their AIS and are doing illegal activities. Think of it like a dashboard cam in a car. Once you have it and you have that situational awareness, use cases can be beds.
We have been able to build, I think, one of the strongest space tech teams in the country. We found a problem statement called India-US Defense Challenge. We won it from both the ends.
So as you think about end users for this data, who do you think, like as you've now spoken to a lot of these companies, who are these users? What kind of data frequency, resolution are they looking for? Hello, welcome to Elevation's Day 1 podcast, where we chronicle the journeys of founders that we partner with. Hi, I am Manish. I work with the deep tech practice at Elevation. Today with us, we have Gaurav and Vinit, who are founders of PierSight, a space tech company focusing on maritime domain awareness, building out of India. We partnered with PierSight in 2023. Welcome, Vinit and Gaurav. Great to have you here.
Thanks.
Super. So I think maybe would love to get started and understand a bit about what is PierSight, right? What are you folks solving?
So at PierSight, we're building a constellation of all-weather imaging satellites for persistent ocean surveillance. If you look at oceans today, there's a illegal fishing problem, which is a $50 billion problem to be solved today, right? Then there is oil spill problem. Each oil spill takes millions of dollars for cleanup efforts, and it also causes irreversible change to the flora and fauna, right? As well as if you look at ship liners, they're really looking for innovation to improve their operational efficiencies, right? Port congestion itself is a $7 billion problem to be solved today, right? And we believe with our constellation of all-weather imaging satellites, we will be able to solve these illegal fishing problems, oil spills, create better data sets for insurance to take decisions, as well as hedge funds, as well as help ships get routed through complex waterways, such as something coming up above Russia, which is called the Northern Sea Route, right? Which is 40% shorter if we have to travel from South Korea to Germany than an existing Suez Canal route, right? The only thing is it's filled with sea ice, and there's no situational awareness today to know where's the sea ice, right? So with our satellite, we'll basically be solving these problems of maritime industry in the beginning. It has a synthetic aperture radar sensor as well as an AIS receiver. Synthetic aperture radar is like a camera with a flashlight in space, and AIS receiver is basically listening to all messages being transmitted by ships.
Yeah. The USP of these satellites are that they have this microwave light which can see through clouds and image at night. So we are having synthetic aperture radar satellites to monitor oceans at all times in order to detect vessels which have turned off their AIS and are doing illegal activities.
Understood.
So it's basically all-weather imagery plus AIS sensors in space. So we call it eyes and ears in space for persistent ocean surveillance.
Understood. Super. We'll go deeper into the problem statement. But before we do that, maybe would like to take a step back and understand a bit about both of your journeys. What got you started and started in space, right? So maybe we can start with Gaurav, your journey a bit, and then we'll come over to Vinit.
So I graduated from Indian Institute of Space Science Technology and then joined Space Application Center, which is an arm of Indian Space Research Organization. So I used to work on synthetic aperture radars, but mainly for planetary science missions like Chandrayaan 2. And then I was leading a proposal for a Venus mission. So that was my part. I was working on SARs, and COVID happened. The Venus mission got delayed, though it's recently been sanctioned for 2028. And that's when, I was trying to figure out what else can be done in this domain. So Vinit and I, we knew each other since my time in ISRO. So, though Vinit used to head the business and sales for NI, but how our interaction basically started was, so he's a great electronics designer. So usually when we used to have problems in terms of, testing a particular satellite or stuck in methodologies how to test those satellites. That's where I used to collaborate with Vinit and his team at NI, and they used to come up with these quick prototype methods with which we could either test new techniques or test our existing instruments. So that's when I had come up with the idea of having a distributed satellite constellation for maritime domain awareness, and I wrote a research paper on it in a conference which won sort of a best paper award. So that's got me a little bit motivated that this idea can be taken forward, and that's when Vinit came to me and we discussed about prototyping it quickly on a hardware, and we could do that in 15 to 20 days while usually it takes months and years to prototype a new idea. So that's how PierSight got started with that particular incident.
Yeah. I mean, talking about my journey, I mean, since the Kalpana Chawla incident, I always wanted to do something in space, right? But couldn't get into, let's say, IIST or any space institute. So I graduated from BITS Pilani in electronics, started my professional career with National Instruments, which is a global leader in test measurement and control. When in 2018, they offered me a role to work closely with Indian Space and Defense, I jumped on that opportunity. I said, yeah, this is that aha movement. Okay, let's do something in space. And then I started visiting ISRO, Ministry of Defense, DRDO labs, worked closely with scientists working on space missions, defense missions, pretty much worked on all Earth observation satellites along with ISRO scientists, learned a lot through the 5 years. And finally in 2023 decided that, okay, I've had my time learning it. Now let's build something and fly into space. Then we started together.
Oh, thank you for talking about both of your journeys. And how did you come up with the focus on maritime domain awareness as the problem statement, right? What are other areas that you looked at? Did this come organically, or did you have to search through various problem statements, narrow it down, and then focus on this?
It's funny. I mean, we started with maritime and then we focused on few other ideas, but always kept coming back to this one because we saw a huge white space here, right? People talk about mining asteroids, looking at Mars, going to Jupiter, but 70% of our Earth is not being monitored at all, right? What we call fog of war. 70% of Earth is under that fog of war. You don't know what happens, and people take a lot of advantage of it, right? So that's how, we stuck to the first idea we had and have been going very focused on it.
Yeah. The beauty is while we had a great idea, we thought it's a great idea, we did not discount the other markets. We went to each and every market possible in space industry, did a year-long research. I believe we started in 2020, then 2022, and then slowly kept researching different ideas, realized there are communication constellations coming up. We realized the capex investment, they're extremely high. We can't really do that. So we thought about few other ideas, AIS, ADSP, and then finally we said, no, our first idea makes a lot more business sense.
Got it.
So went ahead with the one which makes business sense.
Makes sense. Yeah. And you talked about this fog of war on oceans, right? And to me, before I looked at this space and did more work on it, I didn't know that today it's impossible to monitor oceans 24/7. Can you double click a bit on this problem? Like, why is it difficult to monitor oceans, right? We've got multiple constellations which are imaging oceans all the time. So why do you say that this is under a fog of war?
Yeah, so if you look at ocean imagery today, that is done through optical satellites. And 50% of the time it's night, and optical satellites cannot really image at night. And 70% of the Earth is covered with clouds at any point in time. So again, during the cloudy weather, you can't really image through optical satellites. So optical satellites really cannot provide persistent ocean surveillance. While they're still imaging oceans, you can get images here and there. But what you need is an all-weather imaging solution which can persistently monitor oceans. And none of the all-weather imaging solutions today available in the market are imaging oceans, right? They're mainly imaging land and mainly focused on terrestrial applications, right? So that's why we thought of building something for maritime industry.
मतलब अभी ऐसा है कि think about it like CCTVs जो बीच-बीच में बंद हो जाता है.
Right.
So you can't rely on it. I mean, luck by chance, if you catch something,
correct.
It's there, but you can't really rely on it.
Yeah. And I can imagine this is a very big problem for defense and a bunch of other industries. So as you think about end users for this data, who do you think, like as you've now spoken to a lot of these companies, who are these users? What kind of data frequency, resolution are they looking for? And what is the gap that we are building in today?
Yeah, I think if you look at market today, we look at two markets. One is which is primarily driven by governments, and the other is which is driven by corporates, private corporates. So talking about government market, it's mainly defense, intelligence, as well as organizations which are focused on exclusive economic zones of the country, like such as coast guards, navy, intelligence community, etc. Having said that, there's a huge market in private corporates as well, like hedge funds. They want to monitor every commodity moving from every country, from every country to every other country, right? So they monitor all commodities to come up with the best price at which they should buy and sell commodities. And if they don't have this persistent imagery of oceans, they won't really know where commodities are moving, right? So hedge funds, insurance is another big market in corporates and private. So insurance, hedge funds, defense, intelligence, these are some of the major markets.
Again, ridiculous example, but think of it like a dashboard cam in a car. Once you have it and you have that situational awareness, use cases can be bids. So that's sort of what we are trying to do here.
Makes sense. Super. And how do you solve this problem? So clearly optical is not the answer, because optical, as you said, has issues with lack of light and cloud cover. You folks are using something called synthetic aperture radar. So could you, in a layman's term, explain what it is, how does it work, and how will we solve for persistent monitoring of oceans?
So SAR is like a camera in space having a flashlight which works at the microwave part of the light, right? So because of having this flashlight, we can image at night. Like how our phones can also image in night, but with a flashlight. And also because this flashlight is in the microwave domain, it can see through clouds, right? So that's the major fundamental behind SAR. So we transmit these microwaves and they reflect back from different objects, and then we apply a bunch of signal processing on it to create an image as good as how our phone gets it out. So that is the tech behind
Understood.
SAR.
Yeah, synthetic aperture radar, as Gaurav mentioned, transmits its own energy. So you really are not relying on sun for illuminating an object to capture it, right? So you can look at, it's a camera with a flashlight in space, and which works in any weather, any light conditions, whether it's day, whether it's night, and can detect very shiny objects in ocean, such as ships, right? So eventually, once we have synthetic aperture radar constellation in space, we are capturing all human activity in ocean every few minutes.
Understood. Understood. And our idea is to have a constellation of satellites. So how would that operate, and what would be the outcome of that constellation as you think about creating this?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the outcome of this constellation is tracking all human and industrial activity in ocean, right? We can track every ship going from every country to every other country. So basically, all sanctioned trade can be detected, all military vessels can be tracked, all illegal fishing vessels can be tracked, as well as situations like oil spills. Like once oil spills into ocean, it takes millions of dollars to do the cleanup effort, right? So we can help improve oil spill situation, illegal fishing situations, etc. through our constellation.
And
That's
also,
the major outcome of the.
Yeah. Also to add, like navigating through complex waterways, like currently you have jams like in the Suez Canal,
Right.
which sort of bring the global GDP to a halt.
Yeah.
So there are alternate routes to that, but they're full of icebergs. Like there's a route from top of Russia, which is called the Northern Sea Route. It's 30% shorter from Europe to Asia. However, you need to have constant situational awareness to navigate through icebergs. That's also something we feel this constellation can strongly support.
Right. Helpful. I think changing gears, right? I think we've talked a lot about the market and the problem statement. But if I go deeper into our technology today, right, what would be, like at a high level, what would be the specification of satellites that we develop? What would be operating outcome metrics for these satellites? And as you navigate towards building a hardware journey, right, like what have been challenges that you have faced in sort of achieving the first prototype that you have created today?
So our satellite, something very unique is that we've decided to go application specific, right? So either you can make a general purpose satellite in space, which caters to various markets, land imaging, ocean imaging, border surveillance, agriculture, right? But when you try to clump in all of these requirements together, it ends up becoming a very complex and a very large system. So we are solving exactly for that. Our goal here is to detect all human activity on the oceans. So we have designed a satellite tailor-made for that, right? Totally So the amount of power we transmit, the resolution and sensitivity which we have is good enough to detect all vessels in the oceans. So rather than defining it in terms of spatial resolution, which I personally feel is the wrong metric. It's just that we perceive it easily. So we think about it like that. What we say is our specifications are good enough to detect all vessels in oceans at all times.
I think talking about challenges, which Gaurav didn't cover, I'll cover that now. The biggest challenge for us was like we started with a very small team and we had a mission we had to deliver a mission by June or July, and parallelly we were building our team. So every day we used to feel, okay, we need a resource who can do this. We need a resource who can do this. Finding that resource quickly, getting him on board quickly and ramp him up so that he can work on that mission was, I think, the biggest challenge initially. But fortunately, we have been able to build, I think, one of the strongest space tech teams in the country. I believe, I'm really proud of the team we have today. And I think it's the strongest team in the space tech industry in India. Right? Now, having said that, there were always supply chain challenges. I mean, we are a new company trying to procure goods. The mission timeline is 6 months, 7 months. Yeah. And the lead time vendors throw at us is 9 months. Right? So, I mean, that the lead time is longer than the total mission time itself. Right? So, we had to navigate through all these challenges to really get them built in the right amount of time. I would say we had tried beg, borrow, steal everything to ensure we finish a mission within the timelines. And very happy to say we finished in the timelines. We had set a June or July as a mark. We finished our first mission within the timelines.
Understood.
Literally, we did all three: beg, borrow, and steal.
Awesome. And can you double click a bit on the team side? Like today, what are key parts of your team, and like what advice you would give to yourself 12 months back as you stand today with a prototype? Like what are different, what is advice generally to other founders starting up?
I think two aspects. One is 12 months back, if I look at, I think there were a lot of people who kept coming through the journey, right? And we both discussed and hire a lot of them, while probably we thought that at that point in time, we don't need them. But I believe we took a right call that, okay, we took them with us on the journey and they were super helpful, right? Whether they had space tech experience, no space tech experience, still they were super helpful, right? So as and when you go on the journey and find good resources, I think if there is a space on the like your HR chart or the chart which you have created, your organization chart, you should have them on board, right? When you are very young, right? The second thing is cultural fit was extremely critical for us, and we ensured that we speak to every individual we have on board, right? And ensure that their cultural fit.
Not just speak, meet.
Yeah, meet. I mean, we ensured that we either fly them down here or we go personally to meet them, but ensure that till we are like a sizable, like 500 people company, we meet every individual to ensure it's a cultural fit. Yeah. Today, when we have a problem, people don't point fingers at each other. People come together and say, okay, ye to solve karke jaunga. Right. Like today I'll solve it and then go back home. Right. And you can see people in office till late hours, and it's not we pushing them that, okay, finish this. They'll be like, no, I won't go home till this is done. Yeah. Right. So I think I love the culture the team has built or PierSight team has today. Right. And that's because I think we ensured that we hired the right people, meet everyone, culturally fit. Right. Technical fit is also important, but apart from technical, cultural fit was extremely important for us.
Something to add here, satellites are very bespoke. Like when you build them, no, it's not something like assembly line in a, let's say, automotive manufacturing. Everyone needs to totally be together as a part of a team and then build it. So something which we've experimented here, maybe we'll go later to the lab. Everyone sits around the satellite, and even the designers, the fabricators, everyone is there. They come there and they see it every day. So it sort of becomes a part of their life, right? Yeah. And somehow, I mean, what I also saw during my time at ISRO, that's the only way through which you can have successful systems in space, because a single failure can lead to everything going down to zero. Yeah. So yeah.
And I think just adding one more point. I'm very happy to say we were able to bring back few people from other countries back to India, like sort of reverse brain drain, right?
Yeah.
Some of our team members were working for Huawei in Germany, some other countries as well. Just brought them back to India, gave them the best technical work of their life, right? So I think they're very happy today, and we're also very happy that we're able to bring back people and give them some great work.
I mean, we've had great instances. For example, like we hired a fresher who was a mechanical engineer. And as Vinit said, that there was a challenge that we had to deliver something by July. And we were also hiring experts. And now, as I was saying, satellite is a very bespoke thing, right? Even in electrical engineering, there's a super specialty power electronics. There you need a space power electronics. Similarly, we need 10, 12 such positions in order to deliver a satellite. So having all of them together at day zero was not possible, and the launch target was just coming closer and closer together. So this individual I am talking about is a mechanical graduate who did mechanical and mechatronics, came in, and we had this requirement of designing the antennas, which is usually done using few softwares, and you need to learn those basics. So a mechanical engineer designed the antennas initially, and later on we had a expert coming in, and everyone was really surprised that usually you expect someone only to work in their domains, right? Like within their job descriptions, etc. Somehow we've not had those bars, and team has been very cross-coupled, and somehow I feel that's the reason behind having developed it within 6 months. I don't think any space team has done that so far.
Yeah. And what would be your advice to founders who are now navigating the tricky waters of raising capital? What was your journey like when raising funds, and what would you advise to folks?
I mean, I would advise that first of all, start by just filling the form of Y Combinator. That really helped us. We still remember. And Techstars. We still remember, those 2 nights when we filled those forms. They really, help you stop obfuscating your idea. You become very clear, and which is a huge problem with technical founders. So that is one way to go about it. And anything?
Yeah, I think my another advice would be, so don't create a solution which is looking for a problem, right? So if you're creating something which people will really use, right? I'm sure there are multiple VCs, investors in the country who would really invest in a new space tech startup as well. The sector is growing. Government is pumping a lot of money into this sector, and even the VC ecosystem is also very, very warm right now to invest in such companies, right? The only thing is we need to ensure that you're working on a solution which has a problem. I mean, you're solving a problem, right? And that can only happen if you interact with a couple of users. When we started our journey, I think we had interacted with several users across different domains to really realize the potential of this solution. And when we painted that picture in front of VCs, like even Elevation, I'm sure you like that part, right? That we are really solving it, solving a good problem, right? I think that's the advice. A lot of times when I meet space tech founders today, they're working on very, very deep tech ideas, but I don't know where's the market for that, right? I think they're working on ideas which will be mainstream 20 years from now. So how will they sustain for next 20 years, right? So I think that probably is missing in certain ideas.
So one advice from my end, slightly stay away from strategic investors, because this happens a lot to people who come in early. When I say strategic investors are, people who sort of come in with a bait that you guys take care of the tech, and we will continue to finance the company whenever it needs. Somehow we were very close to those deals early on and saw some red flags that went away. And similar is the case with mentor equity. Something a lot of times those offers came in and we stayed back away from it, and right now really happy that we didn't take those wrong decisions. So early on, because it's really overwhelming for a founder,
especially first time founders who are doing this for the first time, right? So people come with like crazy offers in front of you, like we got an offer, like we will invest 50 crores into the company, give us 50% of the company, more than 50% of the company. We're like, okay. We were tempted, but then we spoke to a few of our friends in VC community. We understood that it was a wrong decision.
Because you're vulnerable, you're looking for help, and a lot of times people take advantage of it, and you don't really know the mathematics. How does it really work out, right? So that's where I think incubators are helpful. That's why I've been pushing a bit towards incubator. Our own journey at Techstars really helped us. So yeah.
So Manish, flipping back to you, like what made Elevation invest in us? Like what was your thesis behind PierSight?
Absolutely. So we at Elevation have been covering overall space tech for the last 1.5, 2 years now. And we almost met every team which has either started up or was planning to start up. And for us, as we took a step back and looked at the problem statements and the teams that we met, meeting you actually was by far one of the most phenomenal experiences. At that earlier stage, we've never seen a team come in with a articulated end problem statement and market of focus, and a wedge which is differentiated on the tech side to cater to that problem statement, right? When we met you guys and you guys educated us about the problem statement around maritime domain awareness, we ended up speaking to a bunch of shipliners. We ended up speaking to Coast Guard, Defense in India to try to get a sense of the problem statement, and everyone was screaming for about lack of data, right? As you had rightly pointed out, everyone is today manually solving it by putting up extensive radar infrastructure on the coast to monitor them, and it is again still not pervasive monitoring, right? It only is intermittent and only extends to a limited extent. So the problem statement was very clear, and the pain point was very real for our end customers. For shipliners, in fact, a lot of the shipliners told us that when the ship is out from our coast, it's in the dark. We don't know where it is. We don't know what it's doing. All we know is the GPS coordinates that the ship is broadcasting, which can be spoofed very easily, right? And literally the ship is in the dark, and with increasing piracy and other issues around theft, they are actually clamoring for any data that can give them visibility and continuous monitoring. So the problem statement was very real. Second, we also realized that a new constellation can only cater to this problem statement. Existing constellations, most of them are optical, which don't work for it. Even the ones that are SAR are only designed for land-based SAR, which is very high resolution focused, right? So for us, it was very clear that a new company will need to be formed in this space, which caters to this problem statement. And it seems like a problem statement worth solving and has been solved at least for land-based SAR earlier, right? So even on the tech risk aspect, we felt that it is something that is difficult technically, but it isn't unsolvable. And then lastly, coming to the team, right? I think with both of you, I have rarely seen a team which is as complementary as your skill sets. Both of you together bring in deep technical expertise, but as well as expertise on the GTM side, which we felt was a phenomenal combination to back early on. And that's the reason why, even without a product in hand, we ended up investing in both of you. And so far, at least, all of the bets have been playing off.
Thanks, Manish.
Cool. Thank you. And the other question I had was around what are the enablers in the ecosystem that can help you either validate your problem statement or do more faster experimentation on hardware to get to a better proof point. So would love to get a sense of what enablers are there in the ecosystem that both of you have leveraged.
So privately, when you're trying to develop something as complicated as a SAR spacecraft, you need to break it down into milestones. So luckily, we found this platform called POEM, which is PSLV Orbital Experimentation Module. So the last stage of PSLV rocket, after releasing the satellites, stays in space for about 6 months, and they provide that platform to Indian startups to test their prototypes. So we built our first SAR prototype, which we'll be soon showing you in the lab as well. That's the target we had to launch in July, and we could successfully develop that, and thanks to InSpace, which provides testing and other methodologies in order to enable such kind of spacecraft to go up. So we used a lot of InSpace facilities for vibration testing, thermo vacuum testing, as well as RF testing of our satellite, and were able to quickly develop the satellite in 6 months.
Great. Talking about some of the other enablers, like I initially mentioned we had multiple conversations with the customers, right? But till the satellite is up in the sky, nobody would really be able to give you sort of a purchase order, or you will not start generating revenue. So in our journey, when we looked at that, okay, we want to now speak to customers and start bringing in revenue for the company, we realized nobody's going to pay us till we have satellites in space, and which will take some time, right? So we came up with an idea that, okay, let's start building solutions or softwares using existing satellite data, right? And start seeding in with our customers so that eventually we can start replacing the existing satellite data with our satellite data once it's available, right? So in this spirit, we found a problem statement called India-US Defense Challenge. The problem statement was by Indian Coast Guard as well as the US Coast Guard. We won it from both the ends. I'm very happy to say we won it not only from India, but as well as from the US side. When we looked at the problem statement, it was a copy paste of whatever we are offering on our website, right? So it was an exact fit for our problem. Then there are a couple of other opportunities which came through on a similar front. There was a challenge by National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which again we went up to finals. We won the phase 1. We were working with US Air Force and AFWorks, again won phase 1 of one of their grants. So there are several grants by Indian government as well as US government which we could get into. That not only helps us get the capital to start building our solutions, but also acts as a key enabler in terms of speaking to customer and building something which they really want.
Super. So that reminds me, Indus victory. They had only allowed one person per company on stage to receive the award, but both of us were up there. we had a hack by winning from both sides.
Very cool. Yep. Yeah. And Indus is again an initiative by India and the US government together to promote collaboration. Could you talk a little bit more about what is ISRO doing to enable innovation and how is that benefiting both of you?
Yeah.
My opinion will be biased. You should talk about it. So I'm ex-ISRO, really pro at ISRO at heart. So I think Vinit is the ideal person to answer it.
Yeah, I think one great thing which ISRO has done is create a superb talent pool in the country, right? As well as put India on a global stage. When we went to Techstars for our accelerator program, whenever we mentioned that we have like ISRO experience or we have worked with ISRO, I think we immediately got that credibility, right? And the relationship friction sort of immediately vanished and people were more open to talking to us, right? So I think what ISRO has done is create superb talent pool, created like world's best technologies at like very, very low cost. I sometimes call frugal engineering. Some of the ISRO scientists got offended. So, but but it's actually frugal engineering. With very little amount of money, we are able to do a lot of things in India, right? I think ISRO has proven that and we're taking that legacy forward with our constellation.
And ISRO also builds state of the art. So when I was in ISRO, I used to hate when somebody used to compare like journey to Mars with the cost of auto rickshaw or something like that, because I used to feel that really dilutes, there are two sides to frugal. One is, being very wise of the money. The other side is that, chalta hai attitude kind of a thing. So ISRO doesn't just, do that. We also created in ISRO a lot of great scientific payloads, first of its kind, which, have delivered very well results.
Absolutely agree.
Awesome. Super. No, and changing gears, would love to understand a bit about how do you think about PierSight over the next 5-10 years? What's the vision? Where do you see this company in the next decade?
So at PierSight, we've picked up the problem of application-specific SAR satellites. So right now we are working on maritime domain. We plan to launch this constellation and ensure that nobody has any place in the oceans to hide behind. And as we move forward, we are also seeing a big problem statement in terms of detecting land subsidence. So SAR satellites so far, what we've talked about them is of their capability to see in night as well as image through clouds. There is one more superpower it has, which is that it can detect millimeters level of changes from 500 km in orbit. I won't get too deep into the tech of it, but this is a superpower which it has, and that can detect very subtle land motions. So maybe that would be the next constellation, application-specific constellation from PierSight.
Yeah, I think we eventually want to make this form of surveillance more mainstream and affordable, like the SAR imaging more mainstream and affordable. So we'll keep solving various challenges which can be solved through SAR, maritime, land subsidence, and maybe many more. Right?
Foliage penetration.
Thank you, Gaurav and Vinit, for taking out time today and enlightening us with your journey. Both of you are truly pushing the boundaries of space tech today in India. To our listeners, if you are building in deep tech and have an interesting idea, irrespective of what stage you are, would love to hear more from you and learn about the problem you are solving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Manish.
This is our clean room where we make the satellites. So as I was talking before, the satellites are a very bespoke solution. So we love that all the design engineers, they sit around the satellite and they look at it every day. So it sort of becomes, the hardware becomes a team member.
Right.
Come, I'll show you the first one, which we've made. So this is our first mission. It's called Varuna. It is an in-orbit SAR demonstrator. So on top you can see, of course, the SAR antenna.
Yeah.
And this is the electronics. So the electronics of SAR have been miniaturized and put into this shoebox size frame. And this would be sitting on ISRO's POEM platform. So when we launch, the antenna is stowed to a much smaller shape, and upon reaching space, it opens up and deploys. And then we'll be radiating from space and doing the in-orbit demonstrator test.
Right.
So this is first of its kind antenna.
Right.
It's called reflect array and was indigenously built. Rather, the complete satellite was indigenously built. We have several state-of-the-art subsystems here. We've been talking about the antenna, but other than that, there is a software-defined radar inside it, which can be reused for multiple future architectures of PierSight as well. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see it. And another major challenge which the radars face is dissipating the heat.
Right.
Like how it just happened with one of our cameras. It got heated up and we had to shop the shoot. Similar problem happens here as well. And that is why this black color, if you see.
Right.
So, a black colored piece is a perfect radiator in space. And we've also solved for thermal dissipation of this. Inherently, the structure is created such that it very frequently conducts heat out into space. So this is the first satellite going up.
Quite interesting. And this will be launched on the 4th stage of POEM.
Correct, the POEM platform. So this, this would be sitting on that POEM bus and be launched. If you see backside, these are different connectors which communicate and interface with the POEM platform.
Understood.
The power is provided by the POEM platform as well as the telemetry telecommands are done.
Yeah.
So it goes behind there. And here we have one of our R&D projects. It is a drone-based SAR for detecting objects under thick forest cover. So we are soon doing a prototype flight. It is a R&D. So that's why you can see currently, we haven't solved for the mass and, compactness of it.
Yeah.
This is a quick prototype mission where we want to see how these radar waves penetrate through the thick forest and detect objects. So in the next few weeks, we are planning to have a flight.
Super.
So yeah, these are the two hardwares the team is working on. Rest you can see around. We have different facilities here. So like as I was talking, all of the hardware which was made there is inherently built here. In space, you need to be very particular of each single solder joint which you have, because any single thing which conks off leads to failure of the entire mission. So yeah, we do all of our harnesses in-house. We do all of our soldering and even things like, there are deep specialities required in a satellite. So for example, you need a DC to DC converter. Here, this is that dissipation part I was talking about. So there will be a small part of chip within a board which will be excessively radiating heat. So you need to ensure that, that is passed on outside into space.
Right.
Because unlike Earth, space doesn't have convection. When something is getting heated, you can't just, blow cold air onto it and ensure it gets cooled off. So there you need to have specific mechanisms.
Yeah.
So we do all of that here. And apart from the hardware, you can, see around, we have different teams of mechanical engineers, antenna engineers, system engineers, who, design each of these subsystems and then also process the raw data from SAR to create those beautiful images.
Right.
And then, of course, you need to have a huge inventory management when you're building, indigenous hardware.
Right.
So all those, multiple boxes have small millimeter size of components, and you need to be very accurate in terms of mapping them and managing that inventory. We joke inherently that, if you lose a particular capacitor, it's easier to order a new one rather than find it in that. So, I mean, space is all about, doing a lot of things right together.
Right.
Rather than, even in the design process, you need to ensure it's not making the best design, it's making the best design with the available components. Right. What is really, you need to have supply chain as a part of your design philosophy.
Yeah.
So, this is our lab.